Hello, Shrunkle Spurt here, and for the past fortnight I've had my sim secreted inside of this 6.78-inch slice of crotch thrust in Mediatek, the OPPO Find X9 Pro. And OPPO, feel free to slap that quote on the side of a bus. You've got ridiculous battery life, impressive Hasselblad optics, and Mediatek's latest willy-waggling powerhouse chipset, all smushed together into a delicious smartphone pie. So here's my full OPPO Find X9 Pro review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding the old notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, yes, at 6.78 inches, the OPPO Find X9 Pro is a bit of a biggin', although mercifully the super skinny bezels surrounding that perfectly flat display does help to cut down on the girth a wee bit. My main criticism would be the same moan I have about pretty much every phone these days, is that it just looks a bit too iPhone-y. Like Apple's bricks, you've got perfectly flat edges, no curves at all, so it doesn't feel great to clutch, and there's no real standout distinctive features. That almighty camera meteor from the Find X8 series has been squashed down into a corner with an iPhone-y square finish. Although thankfully still works perfectly well as a finger shelf, so certainly helps out for that one-handed shenanigans. So it may not particularly stand out in any way, but the OPPO Find X9 Pro at least feels premium, like any flagship should. You got yourself an aluminium frame, and then flip around to the back end, you've got yourself a pearlescent matte glass back, which is perfectly smudge resistant. I can't remember having to give this thing a proper cleansing at all ever, despite many a burger, chip and fried chicken being consumed these past couple of weeks. No scratches or marks anywhere on the surfaces or the edges either. You do have a pre-installed screen protector up front too. And this here silk white model is certainly my favourite, although you can also grab the Find X9 Pro in titanium charcoal, although that's not actually made of titanium, somewhat confusingly. And the OPPO Find X9 Pro also IP68 and IP69 rated, so fully water resistant and can take a severe spurting if required. Now, to unlock this phone, you do have an all-new 3D ultrasonic fingerprint sensor built into that display. It's not just a basic optical scanner. And this has been an absolute blinder these past couple of weeks. As you can see there, faster than a cheetah with explosive diarrhea, and works impressively well with wet or greasy hands as well. I'll see again my comment about burgers, chicken, etc. And as always, you do have a bit of face unlock as backup, but more often than not, I did actually find that this failed here on my review model, which I'm hoping is just like an early bug. Tried rescanning my face and everything, didn't seem to help, but it doesn't seem to matter what the lighting is like, whether I'm wearing glasses, caps, whatever. About half of the time, it just does not like my mug at all. So similar to the public in general, really. And what you got slapped on here is, of course, the latest, freshest ColorOS 16 on top of good old Android 16, complete with all the same slick, smooth animations as usual. You can see a bit of a preview of what you're going back to when you do swipe back. You got bugger loads of customization as always, so you can tinker with quite a lot of the animations. Got even more options for personalizing the lock screen. And of course, like a lot of Chinese launchers, they've gone pretty balls deep into this whole dynamic island shenanigans. So if you're playing a bit of Spotify, for instance, you can just give the wee floaty turd thing a quick tap, and then you can switch track or change to a different album or whatever. It also pops up with a shortcut if you're running a timer or a stopwatch or anything. Because one of my favourite new features is motion cues, which helps to combat motion sickness just by slapping these little blue circles onto the display. These will zip by on the screen as the vehicle you're in, a car, bus, whatever, speeds up, and then they'll slow down as the vehicle slows down. And I don't know what tricksy stuff it does to your brain, but it helps you stop feeling all pukey if you are pissing about on your phone for a good amount of time. Certainly found it works well for me. Unfortunately, this feature is kind of buried away in the settings. You've got to jump into the Find X9 Pro's settings menu, go to accessibility and convenience, and you'll find motion cues stuffed away in there. Fortunately, you can add a quick shortcut to it in the control center to switch it on and off like so. So I wouldn't be surprised if most people don't even realize that this feature even exists, but I'm hoping to spaff out a full ColorOS 16 tips and tricks guide just to highlight some of the best features, so box of Kleenex at the ready, it's going to be a cracker. And the alert slider of yesteryear has been replaced for the Find X9 Pro with the snap key. Yet another iPhone-esque change. You can customize this inside of the settings just by tapping Snap key, unsurprisingly. Unfortunately, the number of options available pretty limited, so you can get it basically performing alert slider duties. Have it fast launch the camera into whichever feature you use the most. Switch on the torch, get a bit of recorder action on the go. You got the translate AI feature, take a screenshot or nout. And that's the full selection, so similar to what you got with OnePlus 13, you still can't customize it to open any app you like or perform pretty much any function you would like you can even on the sodden iPhones, so no idea why. Hopefully that'll change at some point soon. And by default, the Snap key is linked to MindSpace. So how this works is if you find something that you need to record for posterity, for instance, Sunderland actually being 7th in the bloody Premier League, just give it a quick tap and it'll save that information. Or you can also press and hold the key to record a voice memo to accompany the memory. 7th! Bloody 7th! And then yeah, that gets added to MindSpace. You can give this a quick tap to get straight in there. Or otherwise a double tap at any point will take you straight into the MindSpace as well. You can review all of the memories you've stored. As you can see, MindSpace actually does a bit of data mining as well, takes out what it thinks is all the pertinent information. And this is particularly useful when, for instance, saving a schedule that you've got coming up. And similar to pixel screenshots and the nothing essential space, etc., you can then quickly find any important information. So again, most useful for schedules like which hotel am I staying at, what time is dinner, that sort of thing. But you can also ask, where is Sunderland in the Premier League? And boom, finds that information for you right there. And somewhat annoyingly though, at least at the time I'm shooting this OPPO Find X9 Pro review, you can't get Gemini to search all of that MindSpace information. There is an annoying disconnect between the two. Hopefully that'll all be resolved at some point. Oh, and speaking of AI, strap yourselves in, motherfuckers. Because yes, the Find X9 Pro, like every smartphone in 2025, has AI gushing out of every orifice. You got the obvious stuff like circle the search and good old Gemini, of course. And all those old ColorOS AI features are back in action as well. They work perfectly fine, likes of AI translate. You can transcribe your recordings. And of course, you've got all the usual AI photo editing shenanigans as well, including the ability to tweak the lighting of your photo. If it's a bit dim or imbalanced or whatever. Tends to work pretty well. For instance, this would be a flash effect if I'd actually bothered to turn it on. And as usual, OPPO is attempting to slide nads deep into Apple's ecosystem. So for instance, download an OPPO app onto your MacBook. You can then hook up the phone and the MacBook with a cable and then quickly and easily transfer files, open your phone apps there on your MacBook, etc, etc. And apparently OPPO has also produced an app for your Apple Watch, if you've got one of those strapped to your arm, again just to improve the compatibility. Now I really can't moan at all about the mammoth 6.78-inch OLED display that OPPO has slapped on the front end of the Find X9 Pro. It's 2772 by 1272 pixel resolution, so perfectly crisp. Got full HDR10 and Dolby Vision streaming support on this bad boy. Beautiful contrast. The colours, of course, fully customizable via the display settings. On its lowest brightness, it scales all the way down to a measly single nit, but can also scale all the way up to over 3000 nits for a bit of outdoor shenanigans. I do still find, however, in the mornings when I wake up, that auto brightness just has the screen just a little bit too bright. I often have to manually bump it right down so I'm not like, ugh. You got the usual eye comfort and sleep features slapped on here as well. 2160Hz PWM dimming if you are sensitive to OLED flicker, and the refresh rate maxes out at 120Hz. And the Find X9 Pro also boasts a pretty banging pair of stereo speakers with the O-Reality fine tuning. The Realme 15 Pro Game of Thrones Special Edition celebrates the telly show and also the books, which, I mean, let's face it, we're never going to get a proper end to those ever, are we? Georgie boy there just spending every damn day Scrooge McDucking his way through his enormous vat of money. So pretty beefy bit of audio when you max out that volume, certainly loud enough to clearly hear even in quite a noisy environment. A respectable amount of bass, certainly for a blower. And of course there's bugger all headphone jack action on here, just like all flagship smartphones these days, but the Bluetooth shenanigans are absolutely fine. Now you'll probably notice a bit of a trend with most upcoming flagship smartphones in that they'll all be packing Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chipset. Whereas here on the OPPO Find X9 Pro, it's actually one of the very first smartphones rocking Mediatek's big rival chipset, the Dimensity 9500. And that's backed here in the Pro model by 16 gigs of RAM. You'll also see my review model has got 512 gigs of storage. So despite downloading Wuthering Waves and shooting a shitload of 4K video, still got quite a way to go before I fill that up. And yeah, sure, the Dimensity 9500 doesn't benchmark as strongly as Qualcomm's Snapdragon-y rival, but benchmarking frankly is a whole bag of arse gravy anyway. And the good news is the Find X9 Pro can cope with anything you chuck at it, even gaming on the most demanding, least optimized titles like Wuthering Waves, not a problem at all. I boosted all of the graphics settings up to the highest maximum possible values, and even after literally hours of gaming on this thing, that frame rate stayed nice and smooth and stable. And OPPO has also kindly slapped a massive vapor chamber in this thing, so again, even after hours of gaming action, it doesn't get particularly warm. The only real moan I have about the gaming side of things on the Find X9 Pro is here on Wuthering Waves. It seems to do this compile and shader guff every single time I want to play the bloody game, and while on most smartphones it seems to zip through fairly quickly, it just seems to take ruddy forever here on this bugger. And then naturally you've got that ColorOS gaming mode, which you can slide out at any point for your supported titles. You've got a variety of performance modes, including Pro Gamer, pretty handy for those more demanding titles like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, all the way down to Power Saver mode if you're playing some pretty straightforward simple fare. And lots of other tools and features that you can bugger about with. You can record the action, make sure you get a bit of Do Not Disturb on the go. And there's even a quick startup feature, which can keep your game running in the background when you minimize it, just so you can fast launch straight back into it again. Probably not a good idea with the likes of Wuthering Waves. And the Find X9 Pro also boasts OPPO's 3rd generation silicon carbon battery tech, and it's a whopping great big 7,500 mAh capacity cell slammed into the admittedly chunky-ish chassis. And OPPO is promising that after 5 years, at least 80% of that battery health should still be remaining with regular use. And frankly, with the 7,500 mAh capacity battery, even 80% is better than what you'll get with most regular smartphones. And of course, that ludicrous capacity combined with the general energy efficiency of Mediatek's Dimensity 9500 means all-day use out of a single charge. Not a problem. All weekend use out of a single charge, more than happy with that. Most days I managed to finish with just over 50% of that battery charge remaining, and that's with around sort of 7 to 8 hours of screen on time. Some days, good hour or two of Android Auto use, plenty of camera play of course. Even stuff that typically drains the battery pretty fast, like a bit of video chatting online, that didn't seem to have too much of an impact. The only time I managed to get that battery life well under 50% was the day I was literally shooting a vlog about boozing my way around Bermondsey, which has just gone live on my Spurtle channel. Definitely go check that out right after this one, because it'll absolutely blow your tits off big time. But shooting that masterpiece of a documentary certainly did a number on the old battery life, because I recorded well over an hour's worth of 4K footage on top of everything else I was doing. Of course, plenty of screen on time that day, and that drained the battery down to, I think it was around between 20 to 25% by the end of that day. My memory's a little bit hazy, and I found that even when gaming on resource-sucking titles like Wuthering Waves, well, no worries, you get close to 6 hours of action on a full charge. Again, that's with those visual settings boosted up to the maximum level. So yeah, overall, certainly if you are the most demanding user out there, you will be more than happy with the OPPO Find X9 Pro. Some of the best battery life I've ever seen. And if you do need to give it a quick top up, no worries there either. You've got 80 watt wired charging support and 50 watt wireless charging. And then lastly, my lovelies, for this delicious wee OPPO Find X9 Pro review, let's have a squint at the old optics there. And you've got a classy bit of triple Hasselblad camera action, plus a bonus lens as well, but more on that in a bit. And the OPPO Find X9 Pro heralds the return of that quick key up top, the quick button, whatever it is they call it. Should just be called the camera button, because a quick double tap loads up that camera, even when the phone is hibernating. You can then tap the button again to shoot. You can hold it down to burst shoot. You can also slide your finger across the surface to zoom in and out. It's a nice smooth responsive motion, as you can see there. This only works when you're holding the phone in landscape mode. As you can see, in portrait mode it does nothing, probably in case your fingers accidentally brush it. To be honest though, I still find it easier just to use the on-screen controls. As you can see there, you can just tap in order to zoom in a little bit, 23 to 28 to 35mm equivalent focus. Otherwise, if you press and hold, you can smoothly zoom in and out like so. You know, as with the previous generation, I'd probably use this quick button more if it was positioned more towards the edge, similar to Sony's camera button on the Xperia smartphones. It's just too awkwardly positioned towards the middle of the smartphone here. So quite often I say, stuff that, just use the on-screen controls. You know, the old school method works perfectly fine. But anyway, the main shooter here on the Find X9 Pro is a 50 megapixel Ultra XDR camera using Sony's LYT-828 sensor. And this is a fresh new 1/1.28 inch sensor, which apparently OPPO co-developed with Sony. Not exactly sure how much input they had. And this captures 50 megapixel photos by default, but it does automatically drop to 25 or 12 megapixel resolution if the lighting isn't perfect. I did find that for quite a lot of my test snaps, the quality did drop to 25 megapixels automatically, a couple in 12, and it was particularly CAC lighting. If you're not really a fan, well, no worries. You can just dive on into the camera settings and then go into formats. As you can see there, you can choose between standard and high resolution. Now, OPPO has been proper popping its own trumpet over the Find X9 Pro's HDR abilities, and I certainly can't argue. High dynamic scenes shot either during the day or at night generally come out pretty bloody good. You get a decent amount of detail in the darker areas, but without them having all blown up and over-brightened and oversaturated like what you'll get with iPhones, etc. As for that bonus lens slapped on the back, well, this is OPPO's True Color sensor, which is designed to measure color temperature changes. And this allows the Find X9 Pro to capture colors as accurately as possible, especially in warmer ambient environments like bars, where I just happen to spend the majority of my time. And certainly in the shots that I've grabbed, colours seem to look realistic enough. Vibrant subjects really shine, although I do still occasionally get an overly orange pick in softer light. And OPPO's imaging engine also helps to cut down on noise in softly lit environments with cracking results. I barely saw any grain in my evening photos. And as for subjects who can't keep bloody still, well, no worries. Your snaps will often come out blurry in regular auto mode, but if you tap the action button up top, you'll get consistently crisp results. Perfect for capturing pets, as well as wee ones absolutely off their tits on Haribo. And likewise, portrait results are usually pretty good with an effective bokeh style blurring. And you've also got yourself a 200 megapixel telephoto shooter. This uses a 1/1.56 inch sensor, which is pretty ruddy big for a telephoto. And you've got 70mm equivalent focus. Again, you can just punch into 85 with a quick tap. And this provides lossless zoom to roughly the 13 times level, around the 300mm equivalent focal length, and maxes out at 120 times zoom. OPPO's swanky pants prism hybrid optical image stabilization helps to keep your pics blur-free, even when you're punching in bloody miles. But the AI sharpening has kind of mixed results. Like here, for instance, where a group of people appear to have been turned into Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. And if you feel like that isn't enough tech to satisfy your zoom-in requirements for whatever reason, well, no worries. OPPO also provides the Hasselblad Teleconverter kit for an extra fee, naturally, which you can slap on there to further boost the zoom shenanigans. And let me tell you, when I whipped out this chunky 5-incher on London Bridge, I attracted all kinds of startled glances and envious glares. And this comprises of 4 separate bits. First, you have a case which you need to slap onto the OPPO Find X9 Pro. This then allows you to slide the adapter over the camera bump. And then last up is the actual OPPO Hasselblad Teleconverter lens. I say lens, it actually consists of 13 separate lenses. Just pop the top and bottom protectors off. Align the orange dot with the white dot and give it a wee twist. And you're ready for action. And OPPO has also included a handy little tripod mount in case you want to get really serious. Now, of course, with that teleconverter strapped into place, you can't use the phone's other sensors, so you are locked into anything between a 10 times and 200 times zoom. If you want to grab a proper faraway shot, this does a fantastic job, serving up supremely sharp detail pack snaps from a great distance. Although once you push up towards the 200 times zoom ceiling, your subject will once again get all kind of mushy. But of course, yes, it is still pretty niche stuff. I could maybe see, for example, a wildlife lover having a great old time slapping this thing on their Find X9 Pro, snapping some close-up pics of squirrels or the resting bitch face of a soggy seagull. And when you're shooting video with the Teleconverter kit, you can punch in all the way up to around 50 times. And last up, the Find X9 Pro's arse is adorned with a 50 meg 15mm ultra-wide shooter using an ISOCELL GN5 sensor. And this is a bit of a banger, even in quite dodgy light. Doesn't foul itself in the evening times, again with next to no noise and a respectable amount of detail. And oh yeah, for your motion photo shenanigans as well, OPPO has now boosted this, so it's now 4K video that it records for motion photo rather than regular HD. And you've also got the option of adding a bit of slow motion into your motion photos if you've got nothing better to do with your life. And when you're recording a bit of home movie action, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage at 60 frames per second with Dolby Vision HDR switched on across all 3 rear cameras, while the main and telephoto cams can upgrade this to 4K resolution 120 frames per second, again with Dolby Vision. Now, I was more than happy with the video efforts recorded by the OPPO Find X9 Pro. As I say, I used this phone to solely shoot the whole of my Bermondsey Beer Mile video, which you can see right now over on the Spurt Hole channel. So go check that out to get an idea of the video quality you can expect, but the stabilization solid, audio pickup pretty clear, all around bit of a banger. And yes, you've got your Pro Video mode on board as well, again with the HDR Smart, and now you can shoot in log as well if you want to do a bit of color correction in edit. And lastly, up front on the OPPO Find X9 Pro, you've got yourself an upgraded 50 megapixel selfie camera, which can shoot you at 4K resolution at up to 60 frames per second, again with those Dolby Vision Smarts. And again, stabilization is excellent, audio pickup nice and clear. I use this selfie cam as well as the rear cams to record that Spurt Hole video about the Bermondsey Beer Mile. So you can go, again, check that out. But yeah, certainly for your video chat shenanigans, bit of vlogging, all that stuff does the job. And there you have it, kiddies. That in a nutshell is my full final frank review of the OPPO Find X9 Pro. And I gotta say, between the rather lush hardware and that excellent, satisfying ColorOS software experience, it's some proper trouser-rousing stuff, a flagship that I've got very little to complain about. I would happily have stuffed in my pants every single day, especially thanks to that excellent battery life. That's what this tired old northern knacker reckons anyway. What do you think about the OPPO Find X9 Pro? It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. As I say, stay tuned for my full ColorOS 16 tips and tricks guide type thing. And I'm hoping to do a couple of comparisons between the Find X9 Pro and the likes of the OnePlus 15, for instance. But if there's any specific comparisons you'd like me to do, just slap it down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Did I say the subscribe notifications thing? If I didn't, do all that, like YouTube bollocks. Have a good one and see you in the next one. See you. I love you.